Okay, welcome to the 63rd episode of an Evolving Man podcast. Today, I'm excited to be speaking to Shahid Van Helden. Shahid is a men's group and men's and couples retreat and Tantra facilitator. Shahid has also trained in Tantra Massage and Bodywork. He runs couples retreats with his beloved Shashi Solluna. Welcome, Shahid.
Thank you, Piers. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for giving me the opportunity and the space and time to speak into men's work and couples work in the field of Tantra.
Thank you. Thank you. A pleasure. I reached out to Shashi a few months ago and she mentioned yourself and the connection was made. And yeah, it sounds like, it's as I've listened to your podcast with her and reading some of your blog posts. Yeah, I'm fascinated to hear more. So how I love to begin the podcast is for you to share a little bit of your journey. What has taken you into doing this work now?
Yes, well, as a lot of transformations, my journey started with a crisis, which was a crisis in my marriage at the time back in 2008. Um, I ended up divorcing my first wife because we had a totally dysfunctional marriage. The intimacy had died, and we had become sort of brother and sister in the course of the last few years of our marriage, and we were both utterly miserable, I should say, and things came to a head, and I had to really reconnect with myself, because what had happened in my marriage, I had lost myself in terms of taking care of myself, meeting my own needs, and which was something I hadn't really learned as a young boy or an adolescent or an adult for that matter. And in the upbringing, the thing was that you had to figure things out for yourself. You had to know where it was at. You had to know what to do. And asking for help was not something that was looked upon favorably. So, I isolated myself, and the problems I was dealing with only became bigger and more complicated, and I saw nowhere out. I drank too much. I smoked too much. I ended up cheating on my wife. All the tensions in our marriage destroyed our intimacy, and so it was a total shamble, really. And I really came to a point which in times I call it the blackest page of my life, where I really had to abandon everybody else and come back home to myself, including my kids, which was heartbreaking for me because I my parents had broken up when I was 7, and one of the things that I had told myself, which I had pressured myself into, was to stick together no matter what, because I didn't want my kids to go through the same thing I went through as a young boy, which was the breakup of my parents and all the confusion and that came with it. And I remember when my son turned 8, one of the first things I thought was, okay, I've lasted 1 year longer than my dad, and that was, a telltale sign, of course, that things were not quite okay. And so I I left, and I still took full responsibility for my kids and my ex-wife in terms of providing for them, keeping them um, um, safe for as far as I could provide. I lived somewhere else, and then I started to really. I was already into some mindfulness and meditation and yoga, so I kind of deepened my practice, and as I became a co-parent, more time opened up for that exploration. And then I met my second partner, and she was already into tantra, and I never heard about it. So I started reading books, Osho's books predominantly, and it opened up a whole world of possibilities. And that's how I kind of came into, or Tantra came into my life, I should say, and it opened up new fields of possibility in terms of intimacy with my new partner, and also personal development, and looking at your conditioning and your your shadow side, basically. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So that's where my journey started, my journey inside, if you will. And what I really appreciated about Tantra, I mean, I've had some moments in my life where I was drawn to Baha'i, I was drawn to Buddhism. I wasn't so much drawn to Christianity, but I did like the whole uh, story of Jesus. I was looking for meaning. I was looking for something to give me a portal into a more meaningful and a more beautiful life. And Tantra kind of gave me that portal. Also because it's not so much a domination. It's more of a philosophy, if you will,
Mhm.
and it it um, it takes our humanity and our spirituality, and basically invites us to weave those two together, to basically to have um, um, the best possible human experience whilst being a spiritual being. Anyway, that's how I interpreted and took in Tantra. And it really invites us to embrace all of life,
Mhm.
the good and the bad, and the ugly and the beautiful. And it felt to me like it made so much more sense, instead of starting with what isn't right and what you can't do, and to actually be curious and embrace it all, and then bring your consciousness towards your humanity so you make the right choices. So this really inspired me, and it felt like homecoming. And that was back in 2008, 2009. And I did multiple trainings with multiple teachers to go deeper into the practice, to know more about Tantra in general, also some of the classical Tantra, and of course Neo Tantra and Osho. And then I had uh, my second breakup with the partner who introduced me to Tantra. We came to a dead end street in 2016, and I ended a relationship with her. And then I had a period of celibacy. I felt like I needed to go in deeper still, especially when it comes to meditation, and really um, looking at my woundings, my father wounds, my mother wounds. And men's work had become a bigger part of my life. Also, I had quite a serious car accident years before that, and one of the things that really brought me back to me was actually stepping into a field of men for a year long, having bi-weekly gatherings,
Mhm.
theme based, and really sharing from the heart and connecting from the heart, which was something that I hadn't done much with men because it was never really safe enough to do that. And I noticed that this work had really not just opened up my heart, but made me a more whole human being. Because what I, on hindsight, noticed was that if we were together as a group of men sharing the same intentions, what actually happened is that we started becoming more vulnerable, more real, if you will, and we actually found a way to start appreciating and cultivating our inner feminine more, in this field of men, which seemed almost paradoxical. but it's what happened. You know, if a man feels safe in a space, he can open up and he can really go inside and look at the things that he normally doesn't address or suppresses with tobacco, alcohol, porn, whatever. And so I had a profound journey there, which made me more curious and made me want to explore more. And my partner at the time, my second partner, she had kind of bogged down in her own process. And I did everything I could to help her move along and face her, you know, her blind spots and her demons. But that wasn't forthcoming, and we were basically in each other's way. So I felt like this relationship had served its purpose, and it was best to lovingly say goodbye. So we did, and that wasn't easy, although it was easier than the first time, I tell you, because there weren't any children involved, and I wasn't legally married with her, so that was a relief in a way. I still took care of her, and I'm still connected to her. I think that one of the major things that we need to do in our lives as we grow and evolve is to acknowledge the fact that people go through different phases in their lives, and then that is a normal evolution of our personality and of our consciousness, and that we need to honor every stage of that journey. And that also means the people that walk along with us in that stage. And so I lovingly said goodbye to her and embarked on a deeper journey again into tantra, into meditation, and into men's work. Started offering more and more men's work in the Netherlands here. A bi-weekly men's circle that I was already starting up became very important, and also the various workshops at festivals and other events where um, I tried to reach as many men as possible. You know, basically the message is always to make them see that they're not alone, that we're all struggling with the same topics, and we all think we need to do it alone, and that coming together as men is one of the biggest resources and assets that we men can tap into if we are willing to make that step and cross that threshold, which tends to keep men away from other men, you know, due to upbringing and experiences and trauma, etc. So, and then at the end of 16, I met my current partner, Shashi Solluna, and we got together. And she's, of course, an international tantrika. She's been teaching for 20 plus years, extremely big-hearted, talented, intelligent, gorgeous Shakti that teaches women predominantly, and so in the course of 17 we started on invite, actually, because people around us saw how beautiful a connection we had and a beautiful relationship we were building, and they were inspired and they asked us to teach. And so we stepped into, because I wasn't really a tantra teacher, I was more of a, I don't know, I wasn't maybe even a proper teacher. I was more like a male facilitator, a male coach, guide, you know, a guy that wanted to help other guys, basically. And so we started teaching 17, and that is ongoing, and reaching out to couples to give them the tools and the experience and the transmission of how to build a deeper, loving relationship together, overcoming, you know, the different obstacles that relations tend to go through. And alongside that, the men's work has grown. I've worked together with multiple other guys, and one of the biggest things that I do now is the initiation journey
Mm.
with Aaron Kleineman, who has initiated this training, and we've been teaching that across the planet. And this year, for the first time in September, I'm bringing this training to Holland in Dutch, because there's quite a few men who are not so proficient in English that they can do an in-depth integral training in another language. And a lot of men nowadays don't want to fly halfway across the planet to do a training, which I can appreciate, and I think it's a good thing. So that's where I'm at right now with my journey. And yeah, it's been a beautiful 15-year journey almost. And it's really brought me to a place where I can have a better connection with myself. I am better in taking care of others through that, because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of others.
Mm,
And I think I am I have the privilege to be in service to many men, either one on one or through workshops and trainings, which is immensely inspiring, and it really, lights up my spirit to see how men transform, and how men are doing the hard work, and coming together, and really want to make a difference in this world. It's not all bad out there.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Thank you.
So that's it in a nutshell, basically.
Yeah, fascinating journey. 2008. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your vulnerability. Because
Mhm.
sometimes when people share, it's like, oh, it's just this is what I did. So thank you for being honest. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah. It's vulnerability is a big topic. We as men and boys, we grow up and we're supposed to be tough.
mm,
Boys don't cry. That's still out there. It's unbelievable,
mm,
given 2023, how emotions in boys and men thus are repressed,
mm,
made wrong, and how that not just only you know buggers up the emotional body, and the emotional life of many a men, but also it disables us men to connect to the feminine inside ourselves, but also, of course, in our partners. If you're in a relationship with polarity, and I know it's an interesting time, giving gender and sex, and I'm old school. I must say, it's for me, it's men, women, and people who feel like they're in between. Then that's fine with me. But and I can see that there's people struggling out there with what their sex is or what their gender is.
mm,
But I basically am rooted in our biology and take it from there. So a man for me is somebody with a lingam, and a woman for me is a person with a yoni. So that's just to to make to make that clear, because it's becoming very confusing with
mm,
a lot of these non-binary fluid, and God knows what else terms there are. And I've got a lot of gay and lesbian friends, so it's not that. It's I totally honor everybody's denomination, but I think we should keep a clear head on where we're at, from a biology point of view. Also because it's so connected to our culture, and to our history and to our language and to everything. And I feel like we are at the danger of taking apart everything because of a small minority, and it cannot be the case. They have my compassion, and I can imagine that it's not an easy journey if you're on that. But that compassion shouldn't take us, to a place where everybody is confused, and safety within the polarity that we have is destroyed. Anyway, that's
Thank you.
Was
Thank you.
not even a question, but I just wanted to speak into that because
Mm,
it's been very, very live for me the last couple of weeks. Coming a festival here in Holland that is normally organized around the polarity between the feminine and the masculine, and they were trying to make it more fluid and at the same time destroy the whole thing. I believe.
mm,
Anyway,
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. I think it is a confusing, confusing time. I do work with teenagers and I hear the stories, and it's like, as a volunteer, I think it is very confusing times. So,
yeah, and especially for teenagers, it's being in your puberty is already confusing enough as it is, and then
mm,
having this put on top is, I don't think, very helpful
mm,
in general.
mm.
But let's um, let's get back to the men's work.
Yeah, yeah. So I'd love you to before we go into men's work, is about Tantra. What is it? What? Because for
Tantra,
some,
yeah,
some
yeah.
think
Tantra has,
uh,
yeah, yeah. I understand. Yeah, Tantra. If you Google Tantra, then you get everything that is not Tantra. It's very much associated with sex, with porn, and it couldn't be more different from that. So Tantra is a around 3,000-year old philosophy. I prefer to call it, which basically was a philosophy that arose in what nowadays is Pakistan and northern India, Kashmir predominantly, a region where people were semi-nomadic and wanted were not really aligned with the with the dominant religions and beliefs systems. So it was basically a bit of a rebellion against those. And Tantra's been underground most of its 3,000 years, and what it basically wanted to do and teaches is that in order to be a whole human being, you have to embrace whole of life. Your spirituality, your humanity. I've spoken to that earlier, but also your inner feminine, your inner masculine. So it's very much an invitation to bring all together in one. And so it's very much the duality of life, if you will, feminine, masculine, light, dark, rich, poor, ugly, beautiful, to bring that into unison, to bring it into oneness, um, and through that attain a higher consciousness. So that has been the path, and I think man has always been interested in the meaning of life and attaining a higher level of consciousness or awareness or knowing and this has always propelled forth civilization and even technologies and discoveries, agriculture, you name it, everything. So this was just another branch. And what made it special was that in contrast to other philosophies or religions, if you will, Tantra also embraced the sexual energy that we have, the life force energy, they tend to call it, which set it very much apart from all the others, and which made it even more rebellious because in most of the religions, sexuality is deemed dangerous, wrong, should be contained or suppressed at least. So they had a very different take on that. But this aspect has been kind of taken out of context and especially in the West, and has been blown out of proportion, which started with when it was first introduced in America. But I won't go into all that. It's just that has given Tantra in the West, you could say, a bad rep. Whereas one of my gurus one of my teachers used to say, if Tantra was a bird, one wing would be meditation and the other wing would be love, you know. So, of course, if you embrace all of life, you also embrace your life force energy. You also embrace your sexuality, but you bring your consciousness to it. So it's nothing like hedonism. It's actually bringing more awareness to your sexual energy, to your life force energy, and um, um, celebrating that and being conscious with it instead of suppressing it, making it wrong, and then making it come out, in an ugly way, as we've seen multiple examples of, unfortunately, in, let's say, the Catholic Church and multiple schools, multiple yoga schools, and conscious in the conscious world, where this sexuality has not been given its proper holding and its proper acknowledgement within the conscious field. So Tantra is very much about weaving the human condition and our spiritual condition together
Mm.
and celebrating all of life and cultivating the highest possible consciousness as the human beings that we are on this planet. So I think it's the most balanced and most beautiful lineage of practices that we can tap into and that we can inspire to learn, because it actually allows us to be the full it allows us to bring out the full potential of our humanity and of our spiritual being together.
Mhm.
And instead of going to sit in a cave and meditate all day, which might benefit your own person, Tantra is very much the invitation of Tantra is very much to practice in the marketplace. Most Tantra teachers in the olden days had a family, they had a wife, they had kids, they lived in the village, and they said, you need to bring your spiritual practice and your humanity, your day-to-day human existence together in order to really have a meaningful life and be a meaningful example to the people around you. So that's, I think, what Tantra is. And that's why Tantra is such a beautiful invitation to modern man also, because as the more dominant religions have lost a lot of ground and people are still seeking guidance, they're still seeking support in order to make life meaningful and in order to try and grasp life and understand it. And I think Tantra can be the world religion of the future, maybe.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, interestingly, I met my wife in 2007 on a Tantra retreat, a 2 week
Oh,
retreat.
wonderful.
So yeah, that was very, very powerful. So
Yeah.
yeah, so definitely understand and know about that. So I'd love you to talk a little bit about, you know, men, but trauma and especially dysfunction around, sexuality.
Uh-huh.
How do we start to begin to heal that? Because I
Mm.
see that a lot of men come to me with
Yeah.
those issues,
Yeah.
and therefore, yeah, what can we do to start healing that, Shahid?
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one. And most men that I coach and teach, and a lot of men that I see in the trainings and workshops that I do, this is their biggest challenge or their biggest topic.
Mm,
And the first thing I always say is stop watching porn.
mm,
And even if they say, well, I don't watch, as much, I said, I don't need to know. I just want you to stop, right?
mm,
Because I know that 98% or 97% or whatever of men watches porn every now and then or regularly.
mm, mm,
And it's the biggest problem of modern man is that pornography in all its diversity is at hand 24/7, right? You can 2 clicks and you're there. So, and this is a major problem because it actually, there's scientific proof that watching porn regularly, especially starting at a young age, which now, 12, 13-year-olds, boys, get to see more beautiful naked women in 15 minutes than back in the 16th century, the richest king was able to see in his whole life, right? That's how far we've gotten. And this is rewiring our brains as men. And it's all in the dopamine. And the more, and of course there's a lot of other things that also do that, but pornography is especially powerful because it's about sexual energy. It's about life force energy. And what happens is that the more you watch those kind of images and your brain becomes used to a certain effect, and to feel more, you need uh, more input. You need harder input. So there's actually an evolution in pornography where you see that, let's say 10, 15 years ago, and now it's become way more violent and abusive and aggressive, and this is actually the result of the porn overload that a lot of men are exposed to, and they crave harder content. So to get away from this is the first step. If you don't do that, whatever you want to do, you're going to undermine it with your. And then how do you do that? Because if you're addicted, you have to find a way to. And what I teach men is to reconnect with their own body, to reconnect with their own energy instead of going outwards and trying to find what they think they need outside. They have to reconnect with themselves and reconnect with their own energy. And I teach some meditations there where they can do that. And I try to teach them that whenever that urge comes up, that they find a different thing to do. Go for a little walk, go to the gym, go swim, go cycle, go jog, chop wood. I don't care. You got to move your body. You got to move your energy. And in modern day society, I think a lot of men don't get enough exercise, don't get enough. They don't work the body hard enough or often enough in order to be more balanced in their system. So it's stop watching porn. It's learning skills in which you can reconnect to your body and feel where you're at and become more comfortable with the sensations in your body, and find physical things to do that can help you um, uh, use your body in a different way, so to speak. Those are three very important starting points. And then, of course, before you want to stop watching porn, you have to acknowledge that would be the zero. You have to acknowledge that actually watching porn is a problem. And everybody who's watched porn knows that it's off. It's wrong. And not just from the conditioning and that sex is wrong, but just it feels off. You after having watched it and done your thing, you have a come down, you feel dirty, maybe, whatever. So it's we already know, but we have to acknowledge it, and then we can take steps towards channeling that energy towards a more healthy practice. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Porn, I really see that. I've seen a few talks on TED Talks about this, and people saying they did a study in 2012, and they try to have a control group, people who weren't watching porn. It was at a university, and they had to
Yeah.
cancel the study because there was no control group. No one was not watching porn. Everyone was.
Yeah, and even among women, we're talking men here now,
Mhm.
and I think most men watch, but more than half the women watch as well. So it's and what happens is that it totally messes up um, our ability as human beings to connect
Mhm.
on a physical, emotional level, without having these imprints. Because what's porn? Porn is a male focused fantasy,
Mhm.
and it's totally taken out of context, and it's got no sense of reality, and it actually you know gives the wrong imprint what to men, thinking that they know what women like.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's totally corrupt, and it's destroying society. I'm absolutely sure that it is. There should be much more. I mean, we're concerned about kids drinking, we're concerned about kids smoking and drug use, but I think porn is destroying maybe even more than all those put together. You know.
Yeah, I've heard a figure that for older men who've got into porn, if they come off it, then it takes them less time to come off it. But for the younger generation, because their brains are just forming, if they get addicted to porn, it takes them a lot longer to
Yeah,
actually come off the addiction of porn because they're in that developmental phase. So
of
it's
course. And also, the younger you are, the more driven you are. So the more the sex is actually a topic.
Mhm. Mhm.
As you grow older, men kind of go down on the curve, right?
Mhm.
But between 20 and 40, you're very sexually active normally.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's very much part of your life. And then, of course, having watched it, especially the generations that are growing up now, having watched it since they were, you know, teenagers, definitely has a massive impact
Mhm.
on uh, on their brain structure, and thus on their ability to wean themselves off of it. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a big problem.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Thank
It's
you.
underestimated, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. So the other thing, I was listening to your interview with Shashi on her podcast, and
Mm.
you said something along about personal development circles. It's mainly the women who do most of the inner work. You know, the question really is, how do we as men step up? So often I get emails from wives of my clients saying, "Can you work with my husband?" And because we're so resistant to it. So I'd really love you to hear you feel what helps men to step up. What?
Well, it's definitely the case that when I was still running a men's circle here, most men came because their wife said, "Hey, maybe it's a good idea to go check that out." So men are basically sent by the women, because women see before we men do. The women see, that we're struggling, that we're unhappy, that we're insecure, that and of course, that we're not comfortable with our emotions, and have a hard time dealing with the emotions that they express, and women need to express that. It's the way they do things, right? And so, yeah, men need to, again, need to realize that the things they're struggling with is not abnormal, that they're not the only one, and that their wife is not going to help them, resolve it. Really, she can point it out, which is often annoying, but he needs to acknowledge that uh, there is work to be done on himself with other men, and that is the most difficult part, because as in this society, men are taught to be competitive. You know, they're taught to have a career and to assume that every man is the competition. So we're basically trained to do it all on our own. So, you know, asking for help and trusting other men is not easy for a lot of them, you know, and of course there's you know there's team sports and you got your friend circles and stuff, but often men are have a hard time speaking about the things that are really going on in their lives because they don't want to be called a sissy, or they don't want to be called a pushover, or you know, a guy who's too weak and doesn't know what to do. So we all men in a group tend to then keep each other prisoned within their own inability, insecurities, and stuckness, and that's really the sad thing. So and so men, yeah, when men need to get over the fact that they have to all know it already and have to resolve it themselves. They have to realize that it's okay to not know, that you're not less a man if you don't know what the problem, what the solution to a given problem is. That it's okay that you struggle with relating, that it's okay that you have questions about your sexuality or sexuality in relationship, and that it's the best thing to do is to share a space with other men and talk about that, and so that you can put it in a bigger context. And so women have a role to invite men into that. And I think we men that have gone further and have discovered how beautiful it is to really connect with your brothers and to really, learn what vulnerability is all about. That vulnerability is actually not a weakness, but a strength,
Yeah.
and it's actually a quality that not only makes you more human and more of a whole human being, but it actually allows you to connect on a deeper level with your beloved,
Mm-hmm.
and which is what both of you deep down really want, and which also is a portal into uh, deeper and better and more fulfilling sexuality together. So yeah, so it's all out there, and the more men's work is you know um, uh, put out there, and the more exposure men's works gets. That's why I'm really grateful for you offering me this time and space to speak into it. I always say, if you really want to change your life, stop watching porn, get physical in a healthy way, and find a men's circle.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the three steps. And once you start finding a men's circle and you connect with other men and you speak about different things with men, then new portals open up into healing yourself, maybe doing some shadow work, doing some emotional body work, doing some, doing some family constellations, maybe looking at your childhood, So there's so much out there, and of course, women do most of the work because in with women everything's connected to everything. It's like the brain of a woman is like a big ball of cotton. You
Mm-hmm.
pull on one string and the whole ball happens. Something happens, moves.
Yeah.
And we men, we're covered, man. We're covered with drawers. And we have a drawer for everything. And the most important drawer is empty. There's nothing there. We love that shit. Whether we sit in front of the television or whether we just stare into the distance or whether we take a long walk on a short pier, it doesn't matter. We can focus.
Mm-hmm.
That's our one of our that and presence is our prime ability, but we also have this need for emptiness, nothingness, the more meditative, going inside and dissolving quality, where women are always busy. Women are like the river coming down the mountain. And the man is like the rock in the river, and the water washes over, and the rock doesn't change, at least not anytime soon. So those different qualities really need each other, and you can be the rock in the river if you find the balance within yourself, and that is through only through connecting with other men, and 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 that's often not available within the family where we grow up. Our dads were maybe not even there. You were only raised by your mom, or he was there but not really available emotionally, or maybe even physically, because the things that we struggle with as men today are very much the things our dads struggled with as well, and maybe even more, and his dad before him. So a lot of ancestral stuff is also handed down. Every generation that doesn't really address their personal stuckness or problems in life, and they have children, then what they do is they pass their limitations, their problems, their conditioning on to their kids, and there has to be one generation that says, okay, we got to do this differently. We got to really look at ourselves and what is toxic here, what is not functioning, what can we do better, and that's where we need to start. And the sooner you start, especially men that are listening to this, if you've got kids and you want the best thing for your kid, then you start making the right choices for you in this life with the inner work that you need to do as a man, and it will change the life of your kids.
Yeah.
Because they will have a different example, and you will change something in the family dynamic also. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a few kind of tangents there. I'm working with a client at the moment whose children have changed, and it's just fantastic to see. They want to learn. What are you doing, Daddy? And they want to learn the techniques, and they're changing, and it's just they're flowering. It's like really, really amazing that when we do change as men, then it can impact our children, their friends, the community. And I loved what you said about as well, vulnerability is your strength. My last guest, he's produced a film called The Work, which is, if you've ever seen the film, it's a beautiful film about Folsom Prison. And he said on the
Mm-hmm.
podcast that, our vulnerability is our superpower.
Absolutely. It is. Yeah. And that's something we are not taught, and that is actually our superpower. That in being vulnerable and owning what's alive for us, and owning the fact that we don't know, that actually allows other people to connect with us deeper, and to together find what is going to serve us in the moment, right here, right now. And yeah, that's massive. And discovering that it doesn't necessarily mean that from then on it's easy, but it's a game changer. I
Yeah.
mean, I still struggle with that every now and then. It's not like, okay, I know that vulnerability is great, so now I can do it. No, you have to train, you have to practice, you have to learn. But once you know, you're on the right track. You can make different choices, and it's step by step. Yeah. So
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. So I guess that segues into the question I have about presence. How do we become more like the Rock as men? Because I do see that, I grew up very cerebral, boarding school, very much in my mind disassociated from my body and my emotion. My wife's been wonderful. It's like, Piers, go out, chop some wood, or go and do some gardening, get more into
yeah.
my body, which has been great for me. But I'd love you to speak a little bit to that. How do we become more present as men?
Well, yeah, by doing manly things first and foremost, I think, and manly things being, we have a stronger and a bigger and more muscular body than women predominantly. So we need to use that body as such. Of course we've evolved as man and we're now in the 21st century, but purely biological, we're not that far evolved from Stone Age man. We've got less hair and a couple other things, but apart from that, we still need to work the body, and so being active, sports, workouts, physical labor outside, and a lot of men I think are too dormant when it comes to that. So that's one. And the other thing is to really find a way to cultivate alone time, to cultivate time with yourself, and whether that is a long walk in the woods, or whether that is meditating, or whether that is something else you really enjoy, but it's good to find your own time so you can resource, you can relax. The empty drawer I talked about earlier is a very important resource for men. We need to zone out sometimes and just not be concerned about anything, so we can come back online, rested, resourced, and be in full focus. I myself really enjoy meditation, and then meditation sounds boring and challenging, and challenging it can be because we have a very busy mind.
Mhm.
But if you allow yourself the busy mind without trying to do anything with it, and then when you notice that you hooked back into a thought train, then just that's it. Congratulate yourself on the fact that you come to the realization, and then go back to your body, or go back. I tend to meditate a lot with my eyes open,
Mhm.
because it's a practice that I appreciate very much, and it's easier for me somehow. And I just meditate on the beauty of nature, which is my favorite practice. And I just sit there appreciating nature, trying to let go of my mind, trying to let go of my thoughts. And the more I practice that, there comes this moment where I become aware of me. I become the witness, and those are magical moments where you can actually, everything falls away, and you're in a place of pure joy and pure ease and surrender. And it's like, and that's where the cosmic joke is, like as Osho calls it. And then you can actually start laughing about the whole situation. So finding ways to drop in deeper
Mhm.
into your body, to connect with your body. And some of the practices I teach energy meditation or Shakti meditation. I invite men to reconnect to the sensations in their bodies, not their feelings, but their sensations, their felt sense, because and to give to give a voice to the felt sense, to give a voice to the things they're noticing in their body, whether it's tingling or contraction or temperature differences or whatever it is, or throbbing headache, or but to give words or sounds to that actually allows them to drop deeper into their body. Um, I would say pick up on meditation. I would say pick up on dancing if you
Mhm.
want. Nowadays there's a lot of different dance forms. It's not about the waltz or the tango predominantly. You can go to ecstatic dance, and you're invited into a free flow moving of your body, which I find tremendously healing.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of active meditations that Osho developed, starting with the dynamic, the Kundalini meditation. chakra breathing meditation, etc., etc. So there's a lot of more active meditations catering to the busy Western mind that help you to get out of your mind. And actually, the most simple practice is shaking meditation, which there actually is a school, Bagus school in Bali,
Right.
when is also worldwide. But a shaking meditation basically means that you take maybe 10, 15 minutes a day, as a start to just shake your whole body from your ankles up and just, relax your jaw and close your eyes and just and shaking actually is a very beautiful way to not go into your head because your whole body's busy. So it somehow interferes with your brain, your thoughts, your train of thoughts.
Mm.
So there's multiple tools really to to cultivate more presence. Because what is presence? Presence is actually being totally here now, right? In this moment. And the only way you can do that if you are not stuck in the past, worrying about your past, and you're not anxious about the future, trying to figure it all out before it even happens. And it probably won't even happen. So presence is very much being in the now. And the best connection to the now is your body, is actually your bodily sensations. So you connect to your body, you connect in the now, and then you cultivate your presence.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm. Thank you.
you're
Thank
welcome.
you. It brought memories over the years. I've done some of the dynamics and the
Yeah,
shaking meditations, and yeah, it's something I'd like to do most days is dance. It's part of my morning workout.
yeah,
Put some drum and bass on, and it's like, yeah,
yeah. Dancing is my favorite one also, and shaking. Shaking is just phenomenal. When I'm in state of overwhelm or there's too much going on, then shaking is the highway to
okay.
just letting it all go, and it's even better than dancing for me. But yeah, it's really quite simple. When I start coaching men, I always start with these aspects, and I always ask them to pick up a morning practice,
Mm.
and even if it's 5 minutes shaking, 5 minutes energy meditation or Shakti meditation, 5 minutes silent meditation, even if it's only 15 minutes, and who can't do 15 minutes? If you really want to make some changes in life, then that's where you start. And it's better to start with these 15 minutes and progress, and then build it out to maybe in total an hour at one point, than to try and like I'm going to change, I'm going to do this and that and that. You just take small steps.
Mm.
Just take small steps so that are easily to do, and get some routine in that. And then if the practice becomes stronger, then you can extend. You can elaborate on it and make it bigger. Yeah,
Mm.
but it's a game changer, absolutely.
Mm. Thank you. Yeah, it's something I always say to my clients, you have to do a daily practice. If I do a session and that's once a week for an hour, if you can be doing that throughout the week, just compound. It just, makes such a difference. So yeah, I love that. And shaking, I haven't done shaking. Maybe I'll begin shaking again. I, I have my practice is 2.5 hours, no, maybe 3 hours actually. Um,
Wow, every day.
every day. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Well, I feel that because I teach this to others, how can I teach something that I don't do
Yeah,
myself? And
that
so,
you don't embody. Absolutely
yeah,
agree.
it used to be a lot longer when I had less clients. It used to be up to 5, 6 hours, but now I've shrunk it back down.
Okay.
But I do study,
Amazing.
I read, so I do a bit of work within that journaling. So I work out. So it's, but yeah, I love the practice. So I can resonate. So, um, I mean, we've been talking probably an hour now. I'm happy to continue for the time being,
Yeah,
unless you'd
we
like
can
to
do a little more. Yeah,
do a bit
sure.
more.
Yeah. If you got some more questions that you would like to ask.
Yeah, so I think one of the things which come up quite a lot is this thing about not being good enough, especially around sex.
Hmm.
Um, what would you advise someone who comes to you who says, I've been told I'm not good enough or by my wife, and you know,
Yeah.
I don't know where to start. So,
Yeah, well, this again is a big one because having probably watched a lot of porn and having quite an imprint from that, men are too much, too fast, and they have all the wrong takes on how to connect to the feminine. So I always say, okay, slow
mm.
down some more. Now really slow down. Okay, slower.
Mhm.
So it's all about slowing down in how they approach the feminine. And the other thing is, apart of course from stop watching porn, slowing down and dropping the goal oriented approach to sexuality.
Mhm.
There is nothing to end it with. There's no goal. You have to drop the goal. You have to drop the performer, because if you're goal oriented, you're in the future. If you're in the future, you're anxious. If you're anxious, you're impatient. You're tense. Women pick up on that before you even feel it. So it kills everything. Drop the goal. Don't be anxious. Connect to your body. Be in the now and take it slow. And take your time to really connect with your woman. You know, and that can happen in multiple different ways. You can do a ritual. You can just hold their hands, connect with the eyes, breathe together, and then also communicate. What would you like to do? I would like to I would like to massage you. I would like to touch you. Or would you like to cuddle? Or just try to make it about intimacy. In fact, make it about intimacy and not about sex, because sex is often or 99% associated with penetration, and penetration is for 60 to 70% of women a painful business, unfortunately, because women are open up before they're ready. Women allow men in before they're ready, and they do that because a lot of times they just want to get it over with. They just want to please their partner. They don't want to, you know, they don't want to deny him. They don't want to make him wrong. It's difficult to talk about. She's often not very satisfied or not pleased, and she's often in pain, and so a lot of stuff is not talked about. And so if you are, as a man, feel that the sexual connection with your partner is slowly falling apart, or is lacking, then best thing to do is to sit down with your partner and talk about it. And I know it's a difficult topic. It's a vulnerable topic, but if you can vulnerably express your desire to connect with her intimately, and that you're concerned about your intimate life, and that you miss her, and that you long for the warmth and the touch and the closeness and the intimacy and the sexuality, then if you can find the courage, you can find your balls to open up that conversation and really come from a vulnerable and open-hearted place, then she will also be invited to speak into that. And if you really love each other, then the biggest gift you can give each other is this open, honest communication about what you really want and what you really need. And then be prepared to start afresh. Be prepared to open your heart and to really connect with your partner, and to find ways to take it slow, and bring in um, intimate touch, massage, caress, and not make it about penetrative sex. And it can happen through the intimacy and the touch and the caress and the massage, that you both get aroused, and you want to make love. Then perfect, of course, but that should not be the goal, and that should not be your focus. And if you've had a dysfunctional sex life in your marriage or in your relationship for years, then you probably need some time with the caress, cuddle, massage department for some time, to start building trust again, to start building connection. And mind you, it's not just the men. There's a lot of women out there who are not really in touch with their own body either, who have a hard time knowing what it is they really like, what it is they really want. So, and if that's the case, then actually both the man and the woman should be open to exploring, their own sexuality. And I teach that to men, and women have a lot of resources out there, where they can get into practices where they rediscover their own sensuality and their own sexuality, and help heal some of the sexual trauma that's in their yoni, um, which I think, unfortunately, most adult women have some form of sexual trauma in their bodies, and that's also keeping them from opening up and feeling safe with a man. So it comes from both sides. But what really helps, if men realize that their take on sexuality is not the woman's take on sexuality. When you look in Chinese medicine, the Chinese compare the male sexuality with fire and the female sexuality with water.
Mm-hmm.
And then to heat up water, so to heat up your woman, the fire needs quite some time to get that water to a boil. So that means, metaphorically speaking, that means that the man needs to put a lot of energy in his woman, working from the outside of the body inwards, to heat up the sexuality of the woman. But once the water is hot, it will stay hot for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so the man needs to bring his fire to his woman in service of heating up the water, not overshooting his own target, but really being there in service. And then through that, the woman with her heated water can serve the man in return. But it takes tuning in, it takes feeling each other, it takes really connecting together.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of beautiful practices out there, tantric practices predominantly, or especially, I should say, that really help you to find new ways of connecting to your partner on that plane of deeper intimacy. Yeah.
Mm. Thank you. I love that. The fire. I've heard that from Mantak Chia, I think, of the
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah. And he wrote a bunch of books, um, The Multi-Orgasmic Man, The Multi-Orgasmic Woman, The Multi-Orgasmic Couple. And that could be a really good starting point. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Getting those books, and doing your own practices. There's a lot of practices in those books that you can do as a man or as a woman, and in which you can cultivate your awareness and your ability to circle your sexual or life force energy within your body, instead of expelling it outward as we are used to. A lot of men don't know that an orgasm and ejaculation are two different things.
Yes. Yeah.
Because they're very close together, they think that, oh, I need to ejaculate to have an orgasm, which is not the case. And if you can learn to discern, you can learn to separate those two and actually have multiple orgasms without ejaculating, without losing the energy. And then you actually cultivate the abilities to meet your woman, because women are naturally more multi-orgasmic because they are on the receiving end of the sexual interaction. Anyway, their biology is wired in a different way. So women have a multi-orgasmic ability that we men can only bow to, I should say. And we can cultivate it up to an extent where we can really meet our Shakti, our woman, in that. But then we need to find containment, some discipline, and that comes with practice. And that's again where the daily practice that we cultivate, whether it's dance, shaking, workouts, chopping wood, going for a jog, whatever it is, actually underpins the routine, the discipline, the reconditioning, the rewiring of the way we deal with our sexual energy, and it will totally change your life. I promise, because I'm a living example, and I know a lot of men out there who've discovered this and who, then after a while say, "Oh my God, I wish I'd known this 10 years ago. I would have been a different man. I would have had a different relationship. I would have had a different life." We're talking not just sexual energy, we're talking life force energy. So it's not just your sexuality, it's your purpose in life. It's the way you put yourself out there, the things you manifest in life. It's everything. It is the big game changer for men by far. Absolutely.
Thank you, Shahid. Yeah, powerful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So, is there any last words you'd like to share? I mean, I've put your website, masteringtheartoflove.com, in
Yeah.
the description. Is there anything else you'd like to share with people as closing words?
Yeah, I really want to all the men that are listening to this, and even the women that are listening to this, you know, we're living in the year 2023. You know, there's 2 clicks away from porn, but we're also 2 clicks away from any information that can really serve us, that can really help us. If you are a man that feels stuck or feels that he's not living his full potential, or feels like he really needs and wants to make a change this spring happening, I really want to invite you to make that change and to start small but keep going. Stop watching porn. Start doing some physical practices, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Find something that you enjoy and then start with that. Find a men's circle or a men's group. There is definitely going to be one in your area that you can connect to. Even if it's an hour's drive, it's worth it. Please go find that and connect with other men for yourself and also for those men. You got so much to offer to each other, and it's going to be a big change in your life. Connecting with men who also want to change, you're going to support each other. You're going to help each other. You're going to find ways to keep going better than alone. You don't need to do this alone, really. We're all in this together. We're all the same. Okay. And women, I would like to say, please try to inspire your man or your partner, your spouse, to seek out other men. Try to tell him, let him listen to this podcast, or let him find some other information, maybe put something on his pillow, whatever you do, but help him to ask for help. help him to connect with other men, because a lot of men are petrified of being vulnerable, petrified of asking for help, even if they know deep down inside that they need it. And unfortunately, the men's festival in England has been cancelled because I was going to go there this year.
Menfest.
Yeah, I'm not sure why,
Yeah,
but
I was part of
but
organizing that.
but you could check out the men's festival in England.
Mm.
Google there, and there's probably some resources there. I'm not that much connected to the English situation, but I know there's a lot of men's group happening there.
Mm.
And then of course you can, if you want to, if you've already done some stuff and you want to do some more, then there's some resources on my website, masteringtheartoflove.com,
Yeah.
and there's a livetantra.com, which is a platform created by my beloved Shashi.
Mm.
And there's a lot of male content there in terms of background information, in terms of practices, in terms of meditations. There's a couple of online courses there that I put out. One is Beyond Porn, and the other one is How to Be Her Tantric Lover, with a lot of good content to help you further your path as a more tantric man, and a more sensitive man, and a more connected man. First, of course, to yourself and to your partner, and then possibly your kids, your colleagues, etc. So yeah, please be curious and use your surf time to find useful information and to be inspired and to reach out and find other men. You can always send me a message. I'm always happy to be in service. I also coach men one-on-one who are struggling with specific things. You're welcome to look into that as well. And yeah, I think a change might have happened just by you listening to this. And, you know, there is a curiosity in you, there is a knowing in you, there is a need in you to have a more fulfilling, more meaningful, and more rewarding life, and to be a better example for your kids, your family, your community, and the world at large. And please don't waste the time. It's precious. The Buddha said, one of the biggest mistakes we make is that we think we have time. So don't postpone, don't procrastinate. Go do your thing and find what serves you. And I'll meet you out there in the field beyond wrong and right. Thank you.
Blessings. Well, thank you, Shahid. It's been really lovely to speak to you today, and thank you for your
Thank you.
wisdom.
Appreciate it. It was a pleasure. And all the best with your podcast and with your work. And it's a small world.
Yeah, well, Menfest is something I
Yeah.
been involved in for a couple of years.
Oh, wonderful.
And I know it's not running this year because the landowner died. So
So that's it.
it's up in the air. So they
Yeah. I got an email from them saying that they had to cancel, and it wasn't. I didn't read the whole thing, so maybe it was in there what the actual reason was. But I just thought, oh, bummer. What a shame. Because I went to the men's festival in Belgium last year. It was a field of 350 men with 80 plus workshops. It was phenomenal. The best festival I've ever been to in my life. It was profound. It was deep. It was well held. It was amazing. It was amazing. And this year I'm teaching there, and there's going to be 400 men, and it's happening. And there's a festival in Holland. There's the international gathering, European gathering of men, I should say, in Denmark. And so there's more and more stuff, more and more opportunities for men to meet, to connect, to go deeper, to learn, to decondition, happening all over. And we should step in and join and be part of that. If we really want to be serious about making changes in the world, we got to start with ourselves, right?
We do. Well, blessings, Shahid. Very lovely to have you.
Okay, thank you.